up us in the internet industry. And next we have Dr. Amir Konigsberg. He is very active entrepreneur in artificial intelligence and tech space. And in 2014, he founded Twiggle, which is a pioneer in using AI in search and retail. And this company is also invested by Alibaba. And in 2017, Amir is nominated as under 40 in Israel innovators. So he will share with us 3 AI companies he has been involved in, and welcome Amir.
Thank you. Yes, thank you for inviting me. It's fantastic to be here. So what I'm going to do today, I don't have an ad tech company, and I haven't been involved in ad tech since 2007. I'm a big fan of marketing though, and a big fan of AI, so I'm going to talk to you about these 2 things, and I'm going to share with you stuff that I do. So I'm involved today with quite a few companies in the AI space, either as a founder or as an investor or as a board member. I'm going to present 3 of these companies, a bit about me and my background. So I've got a background in technology, but I've been working in business for about 17 years. I was one of the teams that set up Google's operations in Israel in 2005, GM's operations in Israel in 2012. I ran a startup company in the grocery space in 2008, went to school in the US, and that's it. And I founded Twiggle about 5 years ago. So I'm going to start off with the first company, which is a company which is still under the radar. I'm a board member of this company. It's a very interesting company, and I think it's very relevant to the China market. And it's pioneering something called photoreal and voice-real technology for marketing applications. So I'm going to show you a short video.
A neural net technology takes my face and manipulates it to do things and say things I never did.
Okay, so this is an example. This is one example. I'm going to show you another one here, another 2 that you might be familiar with this kind of approaches.
Israel and Palestine have reached a peace agreement.
It's obviously fake. Yeah?
Israel and Palestine have reached a peace agreement.
Both these videos sound very real, but they're fake. Each of these 3 videos that you just saw now have been done with different technologies. The underlying
Israel and Palestine.
Sorry, too much of that. Basically, the whole area that we're showing here is, some people call this deep fakes, because they're based on deep network, deep learning technologies, and they mimic voices, and they're able to learn people's visual, facial characteristics and expressions, and then replicate them in a way which seems real, but it's not. Now, clearly there are very dangerous applications of this, but there are actually very powerful applications with it, and there's no doubt that synthetic reality is something that's becoming very, very big. Today we have synthetic influencers. We have Michaela, which has got like 1.3 million followers and growing, and it's being fully monetized as well. And clearly this area is developing, but needs lots of regulation. Now the big problem here is how to create this at scale, and how to regulate the whole area of digital synthetic images in a way which doesn't create a world in which everything is fake and we don't know what's real or what's fake, but also allows us to scale and create a bank of digital characters. And what this company is about, it uses very deep technologies, generative adversarial networks, which is a subfield of deep learning, as well as other methodologies to create basically a bank of different character traits, so you can create your own digital images. Now, the application, basically the structure of this is there are 3, it's like a pyramid, okay? You've got people on the one hand, which actually upload themselves, upload their faces, their speech, their expressions which then is able, other people are able to create content, so I can take your voice, your face, your expressions, mix them together and create a new character, and then I can implement that in different scenarios, okay? So there are many, many characters to be born from all of this, and I can implement this in different use cases. I'm going to give a few examples of these use cases here. First one is gaming, okay? So think about the rising field of gaming and its monetization, and then actually personalizing the characters in the game with the new characters that you've created, or just a character of yourself, okay? And you can do this at scale. The next thing is influencers, okay? So Michaela here with 1.3 million followers is not real. And that's been done today through CGI and various other methodologies which are expensive. They're particular, and you know, individuals can't create them. This opens up a huge opportunity for mass market creation here. Another very important topic is that once you create a very big bank of digital synthetic characters, you learn lots about them. And when you learn lots about them, you know how to identify what's real and what's not. And that's one of the most important things that we'll see in the future, is content authentication as a really important gateway to regulating this whole industry of synthetic areas. So that was hour one, okay? Still under the radar, you'll hear more about it very, very soon. The next company is called Allegro AI. So I've been a board member of Allegro AI for about 2 years. And what Allegro AI does, it's the first company to build a management system to allow companies that are applying deep learning technology or using deep learning technology to synthesize visual data at scale. So today we're familiar with how technology companies use visual data. Companies that do, for instance, self-driving cars have to absorb a lot of visual data from cameras very, very fast in real time, and they build their own systems to do that. But you have to be a very large company to be able to do that, because as smaller companies and as startups and other companies who want to leverage these technologies, you have to focus on the value that you want to create, and you can't really build all these systems yourself. Allegro AI, founded by a group of people, former Google employees, Google executives actually, and people from the Israeli military and academia. And this is what they're doing. So they're creating a platform which is basically an infrastructure to allow companies to develop and leverage deep learning faster. And they help data scientists and engineers. They're already operational both in small companies and larger companies. A bit of background about the company. So this company is a bit more advanced. It's about 3 years. It's been around for about 3 years. Lots of IP, so close to 50 patents being invested here. And the opportunity here was really being the first company in its field to market, so that allowed for the creation of a lot of intellectual property, which is very important. Now, we got lots of strategic investors involved here as well. So we have Samsung, Bosch, Hyundai, Microsoft, Nvidia, and others, and more are joining very soon. And these are also becoming customers of this company. Now, the field itself, I can tell you, share some anecdotes from my own experience. This is difficult, founding a deep tech company in the field, which is, to us, it's very obvious that companies are going to need this so that the industry can advance. But there's a lot of market education needed here, because it takes time for companies to realize, especially when it's an enterprise, when you're selling enterprise grade products, it takes time for the companies you're selling to realize this is not something that they want to try at home. This is not something that they want to develop on their own, because it's too difficult to do that. And by the time they realize it's too difficult, they're really wanting us to provide this service. Okay, this brings me to Twiggle, which is the company I co-founded, and I was the CEO of this company for just under 5 years. Twiggle, we founded Twiggle after wanting to work in the search space for many years. So I worked for Google in 2005, and since then I wanted to found a search company. but I didn't yet find a good commercial opportunity to do that. And then in 2014, I collaborated with my co-founder, who was with me at Google as well, and we founded Twiggle. We wanted to provide a solution to e-commerce companies, which were tailored to e-commerce companies, and just provide better search. And the importance of better search in e-commerce is because search is the point where demand meets supply, right? It's the point where a shopper is asking for something and the seller can sell them something. And the better you make that match between demand and supply, the greater the probability of transaction. And we found a methodology called basically knowledge-based search using artificial intelligence and specifically natural language processing and natural language understanding to do this better. And we could do this better by focusing on one area. Instead of being like Google and trying to focus on everything, on all areas, we've said, okay, we're just going to specialize in e-commerce. Very soon after we founded the company, we were getting approached by very large multinationals who were all interested in the technology we were building because this is something they wanted to solve themselves. We realized that we wanted to build a deep tech infrastructure and we needed money to do that, pre-revenue, so we raised quite a lot of money, just under $40 million, and this was even pre-revenue. And we got some big names involved there as well. We got venture capital funds, we got strategic investors like the Alibaba Group, the SoftBank Group, the Naspers Group, who is also, Naspers is a huge player. People know it less, know of the name less, but Naspers is actually the third biggest internet company in the world. It's the majority shareholder of Tencent. Interesting story for those who don't know, Naspers in the year 2002 invested $30 million for 50% of Tencent, and that yielded them a return of about 2,700x, which is a pretty big return. Anyway, so they're an investor in us, and through later rounds of funding, we also received more money from China and Hong Kong-based investors. So we have Misma Group, which is a fund investing in a Hong Kong-based fund investing in Israeli tech. From Chow Tai Fook, the jewelry and retail group. And today, Twiggle is recognized as one of the top 100 AI companies in the world. These are just some of our customers, primarily very large customers. I'm going to show you a short video about the company and what it does so you can get better acquainted.
It used to be, when people needed things, they would come here and talk to this guy. But the store is now this, and this guy is now a search engine. And in the process, your customers have lost something very valuable. They have lost the ability to be understood. Because, unlike a person, the search engine doesn't understand what you were asking for. You ask for a suit, and it shows you bathing suits and bodysuits. You ask for 1.5 volt batteries and get remote control race cars. Or you ask for faded jeans and get guitars. Sometimes search engines seem so unintelligent. At Twiggle, we fix this. Twiggle uses artificial intelligence to make direct and relevant connections between search queries and your inventory. We use natural language understanding and machine learning to understand both search queries and product data. Twiggle understands both search queries and product data because we built a rich ontology specifically designed for online shopping. That allows Twiggle to understand product categories, attributes, sizes, materials, and other words that you use to express yourself when looking to buy or sell products online. With Twiggle, when you search for red dress shirts for under $20, we instantly recognize that you're looking for a shirt, specifically a dress shirt, also known as a button-down shirt or an evening shirt, but not a dress. You want it in red, and price matters. You don't want to spend more than $20. With Twiggle, your search engine understands your customers, and online shopping becomes awesome. Twiggle, search, done better.
I've seen this video 100 times, I still love it. Okay. Oh, no, yes. So I'll tell you why we founded Twiggle. This is kind of give you a macro picture of the industry. I had been a shareholder of, just a private, personally shareholder of Amazon stock for many years. I'm a big fan of Amazon, we used to be at least. But this is a picture of the market today, okay? So you have Amazon in the US and Europe. They own about 50% of the market. 50% of e-commerce retail sales are Amazon. In China, you can see this is, I mean, the Singles Day this year was $30 billion in one day. Now, both these huge companies, they have very deep R&D and they have very deep technology, and they reinvest their profits into core technology, which then gives them an advance, a few years in advance on other companies. So they gain a stronger hold on the market, greater defensibility, and it's more difficult for other companies to compete. On the left-hand side, what you can see here on the left-hand side is a picture of actually how much the companies are spending on R&D, and as you can see today, Amazon is the biggest the company that spends the most in R&D in the world. In 2017, it was $16 billion. This year, it's going to be $18.5 billion. Okay. Now, this is bigger than Amazon spends more than Google, more than IBM, more than all the car companies, and it's creating a very, very big moat. Now, one of the things that it's created an industry of retail technology companies, such as Twiggle. Luckily, actually, many of these companies are in Israel, and what these companies have done, they've taken the whole chain that is involved in building an e-commerce business and fragmented it. So companies like Twiggle, Twiggle focuses on the search element. There are other companies that focus on last mile delivery, other companies that focus on fraud detection. But Amazon and Alibaba and the big companies have all this for themselves. So that's the rationale for why we founded Twiggle, because we wanted to supply this to the rest of the market. This is just a slide I like because it shows you how Amazon over the years has been reinvesting all its profits into core infrastructure and defensibility. This is a non-trivial thing to see. Until Amazon did this, the market wasn't used to this. The market used to build retailers that were paying dividends to their shareholders. Shareholders weren't used to a situation where for 20 years a company would show no profits outside and would continue to reinvest. And for Amazon, this has paid off because now it's very difficult to move them. Now, okay, so what does Twiggle do? Twiggle does search. Search is not just typing, search is speaking, search is conversation, search is voice. It's everything that relates to connecting people to products. Just to show you how important this is, and this is one of the rationales that Alibaba and Tencent and JD and these companies were interested in Twiggle, is because think about a product catalog the size of Alibaba's, which is above 1 billion products, changing every day. Now imagine you're one person looking for one product and you have 1 billion products to look into, and you're on a mobile phone, you have no time to do this. You want technology that can get you exactly what you're looking for very fast, and this becomes very complicated when you have 250 million different people selling, describing their products in any way they want. This is just an illustration of how search has evolved with Amazon. So if you look at the size of the search box here in the circle in the year 2000, it was very small on the left. In the year 2007, it became bigger and it grew to the top. 2012, even bigger. 2015, really big. 2017, you have this. Now this is what everyone's waiting for. It's not yet good enough today. So not only the Amazon Echo, but all these smart speakers, they're not yet good enough, but they're actually the pinnacle of search. They're a situation where the search is so good it can only give you one result and you can talk with it. So this is also the kind of stuff that we're doing at Twiggle. The core of what we do is about understanding. We provide AI technology that understands. And I'll show you what that means. So think about a search query of someone looking to buy a pair of ruby slippers. Now these are results, these are real results that you get from Amazon. And this is after Amazon has spent $18 billion on R&D every year. Now you're seeing results here for Ruby Slippers, but you're actually seeing results that match the keywords of the query to the keywords in the product descriptions, which everyone here is familiar with this problem. The issue is that me as a shopper, if I look for Ruby Slippers, I really want slippers. I don't want a book about slippers, and I don't want lipstick, and I don't want anything like that. I want this. Twiggle provides this. Now, it's very trivial for humans to understand that you want Ruby Slippers if you ask for Ruby Slippers. It's difficult for a machine to do that. For a machine to do that, you have to have knowledge and you have to have understanding. We create that using two core technologies, one of which is called ontological modeling. It's creating a structure, a very deep structure which represents the world. And the other one is by creating dedicated, verticalized, natural language processing systems. This is the workflow of how we work with our customers. So we provide the search inside the retail websites. So when we see a product page, we look at all the data on that page and we structure, analyze, and normalize all that data and provide a uniform, canonicalized representation of that in code. And then we look at the query. It doesn't matter if this query is in text or in speech, and then we structure that query in the same formal language as we did the product page. The result is a perfect match. And you have very, very good results this way. How do we do this? So first of all, we model the world. And this is just an example of modeling the world. So this is just taking one example. Okay, you take a shoe. Shoe is one product. But imagine having billions of products. If you take a shoe, as a human, I know that a shoe has a size, it's made of a material, it has a heel, it's good for sport or it's good for business, it's waterproof or not. And I have to teach a machine all these things about shoes so that if someone asks for a specific query, they'll be able to answer this. Now you have to create the technologies to do this at scale with a machine, not with humans. The way this is done today, outside of Twiggle, is with humans. Just to put this in perspective, the eBay search and catalog team is above 1,500 people. The Alibaba search and catalog team is 1,700 people. Twiggle's team that did this are about 15 people. And we have the deepest ontology in the world. And then you have to take what you've understood and match this and extract this from product pages. So I mean, I gave you an overview now roughly of the company. I won't go into more detail. We also have analytics and things like that. But I do want to actually say a few words, because I was asked to say a few words about actually taking these AI companies global and my experience with China. So I've raised quite a bit of money from China. I've raised probably just under $100 million for a few companies from China. And I'm now working with companies from China. I found it, first of all, it's a fascinating experience on a personal level. I looked at the two pie charts that the speaker before me showed, and they were fascinating. The one that showed the penetration of internet in China versus outside China, and 75% internet penetration means the opportunity is so big. But the problem is to innovate within China as someone who's not from China is difficult, and I would love to do that. My experience there has been very good with in terms of raising capital and also some partnerships which we've done. But it's very different when it comes. It's a lot more difficult, I found, to actually do the partnerships. It takes a lot longer than it does. It has taken longer to do the partnerships on the business and commercial side than it did with the US market, which is fine because it's a new relationship. As a startup, sometimes you have to choose, not sometimes, all the time, you have to choose between where to invest your efforts to be able to commercialize faster. And that's why I really welcome Day Up and all the other people here who are coming to Israel and creating these relationships so we can really make business progress faster between Israel and China. I think the opportunity is huge. And I think beyond investment, we need to start doing more customer type relationships partnerships, M&A, to really make these bridges stronger. And I think AI, which is a field which Israel is very, very strong in, and China is actually becoming a superpower in AI. I think this is a particular area where we can do lots of work together. So I hope this was interesting for you. These are my contact details, and happy to answer any questions as well if we have time. Thank you.
Thank you, Amir, for sharing your great insight. And now we